Back to next best thought. What is your next best thought? Today we're talking to the co-host that I interview every time, Andres. Hello, Dr. Asai, and I am Don. Now, today we are filming a back-to-back because I will be out of the country in a place that Andres has been before and did not like. The home of my people, India. So we thought, hey, let's make sure we stick to our commitment, stay consistent. And here we are today to talk about honesty.
I want to clarify that not that I didn't like India. It was definitely a lesson in patience. It was really intense. It was really chaotic, especially for someone that didn't plan what they were doing. I liked a lot of it, and I really disliked a lot of it as well. It was really foreign to me, really strange. And I think you're going to have a really nice time, but you're also going to have really eye-opening moments, and there's going to be chaos. And chaos is one of those things that when you are in chaos, you are forced to be present. You can't be looking at your phone. You can't be dissociating from reality. You have to be there. That can be really tough. That is not always comforting. Not knowing what's going to happen next, what's going to happen tomorrow. Thinking about being put face to face with mortality, with poverty, is really intense. It's not necessarily a pleasurable feeling. So I had to be really present. For example, I know we were going to talk about a theme, but at one point when I was in India, I was riding a camel, and it was a great experience riding a camel and Pushkar, the origin of the universe, the Brahma put a lotus flower in a lake, it opened up, and the world was created. I was riding this camel, and as I got on this camel, the seat or the saddle sliced my hand. And I was thinking to myself, I'm in India. I'm in this little town. I don't know anybody here. I might get an infection. Anything can happen. Things aren't always hygienic. I'm on top of this animal. And then I reminded myself to just be present, enjoy the moment, despite the chaos. Eventually it worked. So you're confronted with a lot of extremes very quickly. And every little thing, like you cut your hand here, it's not a big deal. You cut your hand in a country that's very different than the United States, suddenly it's a big deal. So I'm excited for you to experience, hopefully not hurting yourself, but for you to experience this with your family again. I know you've done it before.
Wow, that's actually wild. I was just thinking, you can't easily just pour water on it even because you can't really trust the water there. So that's a pretty wild experience. Now, look, I give you major props for going. I just like to bust your chops around your mixed experience, but it's completely understandable. So today, here to talk about honesty, and as we're talking about it, I'm already feeling more honest and raw. It's a tough one, right? Sometimes it's hard to be honest, whether that is with people you don't know very well, people you do know very well, with yourself. So I think it takes many shapes and forms. Why? Yeah, maybe it should only have one, right? It should always be on it. It should just be a normal policy.
If you're around a group of people you don't know, you have less to lose. So you might be more honest. You might actually reveal who you really are. If no one knows you, anonymity, you can be fully honest. Why do you think these anonymous boards online, these forums, are so toxic, are so hated, notorious? Because people really reveal who they really are. They have a sense of, this is who I really am. And the toxicity that pours into these forums is because what a lot of people really is in pain, is they're hurt. So they are honestly being themselves through a medium, and they're able to express the negativity they've been harboring, that they have to hold in at all times, or most of the time when they're out in public, because they can't be genuine, they can't be themselves. So I traveled the world for a year after finishing my PhD, and my goal was to be unwaveringly honest with myself and those around me. And the more I practiced it, the easier it got. But the more I started to realize that I would lie about very little minute things. I would say, someone would cook a meal and ask me, how was it? And if I didn't like the food, my polite manner response would be, oh, it's great, thank you so much. But if you're trying to be unwaveringly honest, say, well, I'll be honest with you, especially at restaurants, the waiters will ask you, how was the food? Did you like it? You said, not everything. I like this. Or, then they usually know that I didn't like everything. But it's practicing that. Being unwaveringly honest gets you to a point where you realize that maybe it's okay for me to be my genuine self. It's okay for me not to harbor any emotions, any feelings, and just let them out to the world. I can be who I am without fear of being judged, of losing love, not being appreciated. It's about feeling safe and accepting who you are. So it's something you have to train, practice, being unwaveringly honest with yourself and those around you. And being unwaveringly honest with yourself is even harder than being unwaveringly honest with other people. Actually.
Two parts to that. So first is, I thought it was really interesting you started with the anonymous board situation, and it's so true. When you're not honest, that feeling gets repressed, right? It doesn't just go away, which you wanted to say you didn't, what you lied about. It sits with you. That you lied, or that you weren't completely honest, and it manifests in less healthy ways. So it's pretty much, you're doing a service when you're honest to yourself and to everyone else, because if not, there's a chance that becomes repressed, it mutates, it becomes even worse, right? Now you're harboring resentment towards someone online or whatever, or you have to go to these anonymous boards to make your point, and it becomes very toxic. So that's something I notice with myself. Usually, for example, in my relationship, sometimes I'll omit or withdraw something because it's choosing the right battles. But I realize many times it leaves me a little angry or upset with her. I'm like, oh, well, I'll give an example since you were with me yesterday. We were getting pizza, and the architect didn't want to wait in the normal area where the restaurant is because she felt like, based on her past jobs, she wouldn't want someone doing that. And I'm like, we're at a bar that no one cares. I didn't say anything because I was just like, you know what, whatever. I don't want to go down that road. I don't want to argue. And then we ended up sitting there because some other guy told us to anyway. But reflecting back, I got really annoyed. And eventually I still spoke my mind. I should have just said it right then and there and say, hey, no, look, this is silly. We're going to sit here. You might be upset about it, but it doesn't make any sense where you're headed. So I think it's important, even with the ones close to us, because really, like I said, we're doing ourselves and the other person a service. And you're right, honesty to ourselves is even tougher because we know, right? When we lie to ourselves, we know it takes us time, but we figure it out. And we're like, why was I lying to myself? Because I love myself.
Self-sabotage is a big part of that. When you are becoming vulnerable with somebody, with friends, partners, etc., it's tempting to put up a shield and to say, no, I am this person, this is who I am, and I refuse to have the influence from other people to change my identity. That's you lying to yourself, saying that you want to maintain that because you know what's going to happen, which is self-destruction, whether that be through vices, etc., or pushing people away. Self-destruction is a much more predictable future than the unknown that can lead to happiness. So when you are with somebody in an unknown situation that could be positive, you lie to yourself by saying, no, I prefer knowing what's going to happen. So, for example, the little one where it's, did you like the food? Yes, it was really good. You're tolerating that discomfort, that pain, thinking that the future will be better overall because that person will like you more because you told them what they wanted to hear. You were self-sabotaging for the purpose of a better future, but that might not happen. And people often respect you more when you're completely honest with them. I'll give you a really random example that just came to mind about a time where I didn't have to be honest, but I felt that itch to do so. I was in Austria, in Vienna, and I was with a group of people. We were playing pool, we were at a bar, just enjoying each other's company. And I was talking about being unwaveringly honest. It's about the topics that we talk about here. And a guy, he was really interested in continuing a conversation with me. He wanted to be friends. And I said, of course, yeah, we can be friends. And then as I was walking away from the group, he walked up to me and he said, hey, can we exchange contact information? And then he said, oh, I forgot your name. And I said to him, it's okay if you don't know my name. But the point is, When you go down this route of trying to be self-loving and unwaveringly honest with yourself and those around you, you start being able to catch people in their lies a lot more. You can identify when people are not being honest because it doesn't reflect who you are. It feels weird. And you also get the feeling of now is a time where I have to tell this person this thing that I don't want to tell them, where maybe I wasn't honest with my friend at all times. I've had experiences where I've lied to my friends in the past, and now that I try to identify something that's unwaveringly honest, I've had conversations with these same friends where I've lied to them in the past, and mid-conversation, the thought pops up, this old lie. And I don't want to tell them. I know it's gonna cause this negative thing. It feels bad. I don't want to tell them, betrayed them, or whatever it may be. That's when I have to tell them. And that's when I say, hey, I'm thinking about this, which means I have to tell people. I have to bring this up. And I call that the intuition, which is why I brought up the guy. We might have cut that out. But in general, when it feels wrong, and it feels like you shouldn't be saying that, you just say it anyway. You say it anyways. You say whatever's on your mind. And you assume that good things are going to come out of it, no matter what.
I think honesty really ties to some of the other topics we talked about, self-love, of course, and then even the last episode about not being too focused on the near-term consequences, because in the long term, right, now your friend trusts you. He knows that he or she knows that they can always expect you to tell the uncomfortable truth. And now you know that about yourself. As humans, we're not perfect when it comes to honesty. In no way, right? We will hide, we will lie, we will do whatever it takes to preserve the comfort, like you're saying, avoid the awkwardness. And especially when it comes to past lives, why would we want to bring that? But I think it is really important as a part of evolving into feeling like you're an honest person and feeling like yourself. I've seen many people lie, and we've been talking about really bad friends in the past. And what I got from it was they're always like that because they don't even know themselves. They've started to believe this lie, and it's completely turned this into a horcrux where there's a part of them in one area, there's a part of them in another area. And actually, when I was younger, I faced the same issue because I was kind of a chameleon. I still remember I was part of the punk rock group and played guitar, then also was part of the wannabe gangsta group, was part of the preppy kids, all of that. I had these different pieces of my identity just scattered throughout, and I was a totally different person around each of those groups. Eventually, that ate me up. Eventually, the worlds came colliding, and I'm like, wait, who am I? You completely lose yourself as you try to just be whoever you need to be for these different situations. Now, I don't think that means you can't adjust to the situation, but there's just a serious balance between keeping honest and then providing enough, adjusting to the situation. You can be both. You can still be both. In fact, I think it's even more powerful when you decide to become both. You're honest to yourself, you're honest to other people. You're still blending in the sense that you can adjust to the situation, but that doesn't mean you lose yourself. In fact, it's an even better test of who you are.
I think that this is intimately linked to the idea of impress versus express. When you are taking in pieces of your identity from other places, I think naturally we're molded by our society and our culture and our upbringing. But when you allow that molding to be your source of validation so that you try to impress the other groups, then you actually end up losing yourself. But when you express, now you are being genuine and you're pushing out to the world. Hey, this is me. You no longer push into me, I push out to the world. You say this plate of food, try it, and I say, yeah, it was good. I'm trying to impress you, trying to get your validation. And you say the truth, even though it might be uncomfortable, now you're no longer seeking validation from the external world, you're seeking validation from within. That feeling of, I'm honest, it's okay, I can be truthful about how I feel. And the world starts to reflect that. You start to interact with people who are honest as well. You start to meet people who are dishonest, and suddenly they're not in a, I use this language, but I'm not a huge fan of it, in a vibrational match with you. They just don't match with you. You can tell if someone's being dishonest. You can catch them on little lies. You have a conversation with them or in a big group, and then suddenly that person will lie to change your story when they're around other people. And you can tell, oh, this person is not honest. And then you naturally won't want to spend time with that person. And you will naturally gravitate towards people that match your core principles. In my case, I've mentioned this a few times already, it's self-love. To be honest, you have to love yourself. To be optimistic. To be honest, you have to assume that the future is going to work out no matter what. To be present. To be honest, you have to be present and not worry about the future, what your language will lead to. You just love yourself, and optimistic, and are present. Another one of my principles is to be nurturing, and I actually believe that when you're honest to other people, you're actually being nurturing to them by not deceiving them, by being honest, by them giving them your true self. You're giving them everything you have, which is you. When you're lying, you're reserving, you're pretending, you're masking who you are. The fifth principle is honesty. So I think they're all very intimately linked to me. And the more I am honest, the more I reinforce all my core principles. The more I live as the person that I truly want to be, the person that I truly am, which is an honest, present, self-loving, optimistic, nurturing person. I don't know if I skipped one, but honesty is the single most important thing to me in my life right now. And it's hard. Sometimes you meet people who ask you questions. I'm single, weak, and I have potential suitors that I speak to, and they ask me, how do you see this going forward? And the question is sometimes really uncomfortable. And I have to say, well, honestly, and I have to be honest with you, I don't know if I see this moving forward. I don't know how. But sometimes it's tempting to be deceitful because you think you might get something out of it. When it comes to your work, to your friendships, to your business, it seems like, oh, maybe if I say these right words, or if I do this, I can manipulate them. Maybe you're not thinking those words precisely, but maybe I can get this outcome. Or I hear people say, don't say that. Don't say that because you might hurt them. You might do this. You might do that. You're living in a future of negative possibilities. And you're thinking that by avoiding or avoiding being your genuine self, you naturally go down that route. But actually, if you're optimistic and you're honest, things will work out. Some of the most honest people I've met in my life are some of the happiest people.
Well, I think being honest is being brave, right? And I really like that you're talking about work because that's how I felt. Like, same thing. I felt like I was split life living, right? Like with work. So here I am, you Sid, work Sid, and here's personal Sid. And that worked for a certain amount of time. We're all, in some level, we are performers. But when you're not being honest with yourself, when you're doing actions, saying words that are truly you, people notice. Whether or not they can sense it, they sense it. They might not consciously sense it, but it's happening. You know, as humans, we can sniff out other people. Are they being genuine with me? And over time, I've slowly and like surely become more genuine. A few of the experiences I had, I was at this very like progressive company where everyone was just themselves. And I think that really put me in a place of being recognized for being brave. And it's like, wow, this guy's really just going to keep speaking his mind. He feels raw. He might not have all the answers, but I can expect an honest kind of conversation. And for me, that's looked like a few projects that I like came in super excited about. They didn't go the way that I wanted them to. Sometimes I spent a little money on it. And that hurt me. And I was like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to say, hey, this led to or yielded no results. But eventually it did. And I realized our executive team, they grew a serious respect for that because they're like, I can trust this person to be pragmatic and to be unwaveringly honest about what is working and what's not working in this business. Whereas it could just play political and say, oh, well, this didn't work out, but it's going to lead us in the right path or whatever. Instead, it was like full accountability. Look, I messed this up. I think we need to go with a different path. But now we've learned something. Whereas if you just keep masking things over and continuing to blame other people or whatever else it is, you're never going to face the right consequences and you're never going to move forward. And you'll always just live there. The other thought that came up when we were talking about, let's pause there. I think that was one of the things you're talking about work, and that really made me think about how that manifests in work.
Talking about this political gain that you get from lying in your work or even in politics, you tell the people what they want to hear. The phrase "you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes" comes to mind. People who lie their way to success, they are playing towards a final destination where they think that maybe one day, as I gain all these prizes, I will feel much better about myself. I will finally be able to relax. I will finally be able to be my genuine self. But in reality, you're just continuing this game where those things don't feel okay. All the money you get, all the fame you get does not feel great. Recently, I was reading I like to go on the greatest speeches of all time websites. And I found this one website, American Speeches. Number 5 or number 6 was a speech by Richard Nixon. He received $28,000 or $16,000 in campaign contributions. And this was when he was vice president. And his whole speech, which was long-winded and I think maybe over an hour, was all about how he was not corrupt. And how he was not corrupt and how he was actually doing this for the benefit of the people. And as someone who tries their hardest to practice unwavering honesty, radical candor, I read his speech and I felt the man was being dishonest. You can tell. Even when you craft the perfect message, you can tell when people are lying to you. And it's actually a superpower you develop the more you practice being honest, that you can just tell when people are lying. Also, I had the spoiler knowing that he was going to do it again and he was going to be corrupt and eventually have to resign from the presidency. And actually, I don't necessarily like Richard Nixon, but I like how honest he became after he completely fell apart. After he had to resign the presidency, he would go on interviews and he would say, I remember one of the phrases he said, I'm going to paraphrase, he said that the single worst punishment that no one else in the history of mankind has ever felt is having to resign from the presidency of the United States. And when he said that, my honesty trigger kicked in. And I felt like, okay, probably nothing more humiliating than having to resign. And I think people are keenly aware of when you're being lied to, and when you're being honest as well. When Bill Clinton lied to the American people, people weren't mad at him for doing what he did. They were mad at him because he lied.
Yes.
And it's just a betrayal of trust, of honesty. So for me, whatever prize that can come from lying, for me is a stupid prize.
Yeah. Reputation, right, lost just by a single act. So yeah, single lie can push you to the wrong space. And I definitely think that what is the kind of wisdom that one lie leads to so many more lies. The second you do it, you're making a deal with the devil, right? It's like, now I told this white lie, that means I can say this one. And it's like stuff we tell ourselves, like, look, we're no saints. I'm sure there are still, at least for me, there's still white lies that I'm telling someone or myself. Maybe you're escaped that.
Sorry to cut you off. There's a building close to us here in Uptown, a big church, and on the top it says, "Christ died for our sins." And I think good thing we're sinning every day to make sure that He died.
Yeah,
Died
good
for-
reason, right?
For good reason. No, I say that not to be offensive, but I think about that. It's okay. We make mistakes,
Right.
and we are actively trying to reconcile our mistakes. And I've had, I'll let you continue your thought, but I get this in, which is I've had relationships throughout my life. Every single relationship I've ever had, romantic relationship, has failed. That's what being single is. When you've had relationships. Every relationship I've ever had has failed. And I like to think of like a relationship is a bridge between two people. You're bridging. And you're building this bridge, and every lie that you say to your partner, no matter how little it is a little crack in your bridge. Now, a little crack won't do anything, might not break anything, but the cracks begin to propagate. and they cause more cracks here, over there. And after a while, now that foundation is a lot more shaky. And at any moment, one of those cracks can completely cause the bridge to collapse. And now you two are not connected anymore. And rebuilding it requires you to completely rebuild it from scratch. So I refuse, as someone who now has decided to change their identity, as somebody that is unwaveringly honest, I refuse to build any more foundations, any more bridges with any dishonesty. I'd rather have less bridges in my life, less friends, less connections, than have shaky bridges that are going to collapse at any moment.
I really like that. Yeah, I think that's a good filter to live by, right? It's right. If I have to be dishonest with this person to me to like them, then there's probably something wrong here, and it's going to eventually show itself. Kind of circling all the way back to the beginning, like I don't think these are honesty is one of those things that like it's not done properly, and like I said, you make the deal with the devil, it will haunt you. At some point, shape or form, it will come out. And if you look at the 5-year horizon, you're like, why would I start this relationship with dishonesty? Why would I maintain this relationship with dishonesty? It will end up irking me, and it will end up leading to something unintended for you living in the ice age and being single for the rest of your life. No, I'm just kidding.
And you know what? That is the price that I have to pay to be honest. And so be it. But I don't believe that because I'm optimistic and I know that I will live my life in such a way where I'm happy now, where I'm not lying to myself. It's self-love.
Absolutely, it's a self-love technique, right? So even if you whatever, like, didn't find love, you would at least love yourself.
Yes.
But on very single, we're on the spot together, and now you know that you can have an honest, good-looking man for life.
I'll be honest with you. I don't like you. That's the truth.
All right, we didn't have to say all that. That's only going to hurt your chances. But
Well, we're going back to it.
oh
right?
yeah,
Hurt my chances, right? Like the whole point is, if you're honest, it doesn't matter. You live your life thinking that if you lie to people or you're not your genuine self, then your chances, the possibilities for your future are going to be altered.
there's actually a lot of indoctrination too now that I'm seeing. Like, it's only going to hurt your chances if you lie. Your Tinder bio is obviously a lie. Like all these appearances to kind of the demands of whatever people want these days, and it's all a lie. So
It's all lies.
I think we're better off just being ourselves, and then the right people will find us. Right, the catfishing stuff. It's like why does it even exist?
Not even just for dating, right? You go on social media, people post their highlights. People are depressed. People are not feeling great. And they're showing their highlights and they're perpetuating this lie. Like how great I am. I've seen, and I'm not, no shade here, but I've hang out with groups of friends and some of the girls will buy dresses, put them on, take a picture, return the dress to perpetuate this lie. And I get it. It's you want to feel good, but you're feeling good at the expense of being your genuine self, and that is a bridge that you have with yourself, and you're a bridge that you have with the rest of the world. I rather love myself, have that internal validation that allows me to express, than trying to impress people by giving them what they want.
Yeah. When you speak your mind, you start to just when you speak your mind, you start to just see more paths open to you because you're like now you have a clear, more crystal clear idea of your own identity. So I think that's really powerful. All right. So if I'm being honest, I'm a little tired. We've been at it for a while, and I think this is a really important topic. I want to leave the audience with some actionable tips and a question. So one that came to mind for you.
Sure. Actionable tip. I am a big fan of writing every single day in some way, shape, or form. I don't always journal, but I always write down some sort of goal, etc. And one thing that I write down or say to myself every single day is a mantra. And this mantra is, I am unwaveringly honest with myself and those around me. I say to myself all the time. And I'll even say if I feel the urge to lie. And after a while, I'll reprogram my subconscious so that now I can't lie even if I want to. I had a really uncomfortable moment in Thanksgiving where someone asked me if I thought they were pretty, and I didn't want to respond because I just couldn't. My brain has now shifted. So mantras is my tip for you.
Nice. For me, as I was talking about earlier, like I felt like a chameleon at some point. I kind of lost myself through all the lies. So what I did was I almost created like an audit of like what are the different ways I lied and strayed from my path back in the day, currently, recently, and I started to just realize what are these lies that I told myself, told others. What would have happened if I told the truth? Where would I be? And it was such a powerful exercise to me because I started to realize, yeah, I wouldn't have had some of these friends. I wouldn't have made it to the socialites group. I wouldn't have some of these, friendships. But over time, I realized that I never really wanted those in the first place. And most of the times I did lie. Maybe there was some temporary benefit, but in the long term, there was almost zero to none. So I think that's a good way to just like, once again, audit yourself and then realize the power of being honest.
Okay, that I think we can leave you all with the question. And this question is going to seem a little strange, but I invite you to try it. Ask yourself, what are my three biggest lies that I've told to other people? The lies you told to yourself are important, but what are the three biggest lies that you've told to other people? And really pinpoint them and have them in your mind at any moment. And when you get the opportunity, tell people about it. Maybe strangers at first to practice. And then when you finally are able to build up the courage, because like you said, it requires courage to be honest, tell your lies. Be honest with that person or whoever. And I guarantee you everything will be okay. And I started doing this. I have three big lies that I've tried to get over. And I've told them to people across the world. And then eventually I started telling them to everyone that I heard. Not everyone. Still missing some. But yeah, more.
Love it. So this is the last episode in 2024. We'll be back next year with a bang. I'm glad we ended it with this year with honesty. Looking forward to what comes next. And speaking of next,
What's your next best lie?